Ooh, Daddy got a big show for you today. Why is Kylan so excited? Where are we going? And what are we doing? Find out next in this episode of Miller's Rods and Mods. Hi, I'm Larry. This is my channel, Miller's Rods and Mods. I'm just your average guy that works on anything and everything, big or small, from custom fabrication to routine maintenance. In the process, my family and I do our best to have a little fun, as I learn to perfect my skills, follow along, and enjoy. Let's get right to it. We bought a bigger truck. Now let me explain why we need a bigger truck in the first place. We use our excursion primarily to tow to lots of different events, whether we're taking the race cars out or we're taking one of our regular cars to the drag strip or just picking up a new project. Whatever it may be, that's what we primarily use them for. Recently we bought a big enclosed trailer so that everybody would be a little more comfortable with the racetrack. Not to mention you can kind of load the car ahead of time and not have to do it the same morning of the event. Now I bought this enclosed trailer knowing that it was going to need some work. And this truck is no different, but it's no big deal. I always have my little helpers to give me a hand whenever needed. The big enclosed trailer proved to be too heavy for my excursion anyway, even after a suspension upgrade and an anti-sway kit. So that brings us up to speed why we need a bigger truck. Here's the little guy checking things out, seeing if he approves. I think he does. Now this truck is what you call a toterhome. So it tows and it's also like a motorhome. So it's got a bathroom, shower, and a toilet. So this will serve a dual purpose. It'll be used for towing things, but also on vacation trips as well. Kylan's here checking out, see what this truck's going to need to suit our needs. Let's get into what exactly we're going to do here. Alright, so what are we going to do with this toterhome? What are the plans for it? We're going to take it step by step. One of the biggest things I want to do is get rid of the Dayton axles and hubs. I know you can do like a hub swap, but typically it's less expensive if you just swap the axles. So that's going to be the first thing. So that's when we went on the trip this previous weekend. We got newer axles, lower gear ratio, and we bought a set of wheels for it. We put the standard 22.5-inch wheels. Some guys do 24. I wanted something that was common that we could, if we had a flat tire somewhere, we can get a tire for it. Here's our set of wheels we got. They're not polished. We're going to polish them later. Maybe we'll make a video about that as well. Bought a kit so we get them nice and shiny. They look like chrome. Going to be attached to. We're going to do 4 of the wheels. The inner ones I'm not going to worry about. Here's a set of wheels that we bought. More plans for this thing. Basically, we started with a bare bones truck. It had really good bones to it. It's an older model, but it's got incredibly reliable engine. It's manual. And it's got air brakes. I don't have a whole lot of experience with working with air brakes, but we're going to learn as we go. Have I ever worked on a big rig? No. Have I ever driven one? A little bit. So I'm familiar with the systems. I've just never personally worked on them. So it's going to be a learning experience. I had to buy new tools, bigger jack, things to change the tires, all kinds of different things. So it's going to be a learning experience. I'm sure I'm smart enough to do it. We'll see. Yeah, we want to upgrade the axles. The axle in this truck, I think it was 529 gear ratio. It's really, really low. This used to be an old Coca-Cola truck from New York. And so obviously they're driving around the city. They didn't need a highway gear. So what we're putting in it, I think, is like a 342 gear. So it ought to help the RPMs come down a little bit. Driving home, when we came home from where we bought it, flat to the floor, it was 65 miles an hour. And if we went downhill, we kept our foot in it, I think I did 72. So, I don't need to go much faster than 72, but I don't want the engine to be screaming. I want it to last as long as we can. So keep them RPMs down a little bit. Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about is the box size. So the back of the box has a 11 feet. Now this has a toilet and a shower and stuff in it. It needs a really good cleaning, but we don't plan on using that toilet or that shower. I think we're gonna make the box bigger and also lengthen the frame at some point. Now I don't know when that's gonna occur. The main thing is we're gonna get the whole truck ready for inspection and be able to use it. And then maybe next year, maybe we'll try and stretch the frame and put a bigger box on it, and then go through the interior and make it that it's livable, that we can go on vacation in it. So just one thing at a time. For those of you who are worried, yes, it's not going to be the easiest thing to swap these axles, but I'm going to do that and do the wheels, and then we're going to get back on the Model A hot rod. So don't worry. Yes, it's going to be priority as it usually is. And we'll get back on it and hopefully get into some more interesting parts of it once we get the inner door structure and stuff like that done. Now, one question is, what size box we're going to go with? We're not quite sure yet. I at least want to double the size. The box that's on this is 11 feet long, and I think in order to be comfortable and have a decent living space, I think we're going to try and go to about 20 feet. We might be 24. We also want to keep the turning radius of the vehicle tight enough that it's doesn't take a football field to spin it around. There's a few things to consider with that, but we'll figure that as we go along. Like I said, we'll do the axles first, wheels, and we'll see how it does, and we'll go from there. I said earlier about this truck has good bones. Now, some of you might understand what that means, some of you may not. Basically, it fits criteria that I'm looking for. I want something that's mechanical. I don't want a bunch of electronics in it. I've had issues in the past with my Excursion. I shouldn't put it down much because it's a really stout engine combination. Really good truck. It's taken very good care of us. We drove it out to Mount Rushmore years ago, and we've towed with it and done so many things with it. So I'm not trying to harp on the 7.3, so I don't want anyone to get all upset. But I prefer to have mechanical. It's a lot more reliable and a lot less times that something stupid might or could occur that would leave you stranded alongside the road. Only one time did I have to call someone for something stupid that electronically I didn't understand what was going on. We shut the truck off, went to restart it because I thought it would reset the computer, and it wouldn't fire for us. There's good and bad to that, but I want something mechanical first. Second, I want standard transmission. The Excursion, the tranny, I'm afraid I'm going to break it with the weight that we haul sometimes. So we want a bigger, heavier duty transmission. So we got that, and I was going to get an F350. F350s or even F450s, when you look at the amount of money you're going to spend on registration and insurance, you might also go with something like the toterhome. As many of you know, toterhomes are a lot cheaper to insure. Basically, we had talked to a gentleman. He had an F650 four-door flatbed truck. And I asked him, I said, how much would it cost to insure that for the year? How much would it cost for registration? Now, I don't know how old this gentleman was, but for him, it was $800 a year for insurance and registration. So basically $1,600 for the year. And this toterhome is going to be a quarter of that. So for me, financially, it made sense to go this route with the toterhome. But we've always wanted to travel. Like I said, we had taken the Excursion out west to Mount Rushmore at one time before we had kids. And we kind of want to show them the things that we have seen and some of the things we haven't. We want to share that with them. The thing of it is, we have Sadie here. So we've tried having people come watch her. Some of the past really, really good to her. But I hate being a burden on other people. So we've recently been taking her along on vacation, and we really seem to enjoy that. And we love having her. I mean, look how well behaved she is. It's my Sadie, my furry. So another thing I want to explain to you is when I look for a vehicle, I look at the rust. Rust is a huge thing, especially in Pennsylvania. If it's coming from New York, Massachusetts, whatever, you want to look at the rust. Something this old, definitely want to look at the rust. This thing has a good floor, has good bones, rust, pretty much rust free. I mean, it has minimal rust, but hell, the thing is 50 years old. So that's another thing to look for when you're looking for something, and that's what I consider most bare bones. Obviously, I have enough projects that need rust repair. I'm doing that to learn. I don't need to learn by putting floors and things. I've already been there, done that, or I work on my dad's stuff to help him. So while I'm standing here, we have this pedal car, and I know a relative of ours, Michelle, she has a lot of questions about these pedal cars. If you're interested in these pedal cars, I have this one and another one my little guy, or my oldest has. Comment below. I made these myself for my kids. Probably gonna make a video about that, explaining and showing what I did. But they're like push-em carts. We have to put a handle on the back. We push them around to swap meets and all that kind of stuff, so they can ride around, look cool, and have fun just as much as we are. So, yeah. If you guys want to see that video, comment below. Okay, so I explained earlier, this engine is mechanical. It has an inline fuel injection pump, and this engine is the famous DT466 that International made, I think from the 70s. They made it all the way up to 96, and it was mechanical. After that, it was called the E, and again, like I said earlier about electronics, this electronic system basically completely ruined the reputation of the DT466. I've had a lot of issues with sensors. I've heard from like a show that I watched, DeBoss Garage, he used to work on these, and he was saying that when they used air to pump oil into the engine, and it basically through a code wouldn't allow the engine to start. See, because the electronics sensing air or whatever in the system. So I don't want to deal with that stuff, especially if we're miles away from home. But so that's the engine, that's the heart of it, that's the power. The previous owner, he did put an intercooler on it. I don't know if I'll upgrade. I might put a bigger turbo on just to see if it helped a little bit with fuel mileage. But the pump is not the 7100 that's normally on a Cummins. It's the earlier model. So you can't really turn the fuel up much like you can on the P7100, but it is better than the rotary that was on the earlier model yet. But that's the heart of the truck. An upgraded radiator too to help keep it cool. And we drove it 5.5 hours home from where we got it. And it stayed nice and cool. We were climbing all kinds of hills and mountains. It did a great job. So it was very noisy, obviously, because it's an old truck. We're gonna probably insulate it some more to try to keep the noise down. I don't know how quiet we're gonna keep it, but overall, she's a good candidate for what we're trying to do here. We're on our way. We're going to pick up those wheels that you saw previously stacked up in the shop. I want to make a quick note about what to look for. This gentleman had 8 wheels. We need 6. And this particular wheel here had a few blemishes in it. Now, not to say that it is cracked, but it is very, very possible that, it could have had issues previously, and they just stuffed it up, and you might miss that, and you really don't want cracked wheels. Mainly, you don't want the holes egged out. You want it to look pretty decent, other than just dirt, grime, or a lot of brake dust. Now, I got a pretty decent deal on these wheels. They were $120 a piece. Sure beats the brand new ones that are like $250 on up per wheel. We didn't get any footage loading the rears, but I thought when I stopped here to check my straps, I would just get a little footage of what we picked up. These are axles off a 2019 Freightliner. We didn't need all 3 axles, but the extra one we have there is good for parts. The extra axle has the brake drums, it's got the pads, it's got the brake chambers, it's got a lot of extra parts that will be very useful in the future, I'm sure, when the other axle parts wear out. Here I'm rechecking the tightness of the straps. Once you go down the road a little ways, it's always a good idea to stop and make sure that they're as tight as they can be so none of this stuff flies off. Mine were a little loose. I had to tighten a few of them. Not real bad, I mean they weren't going to go anywhere, but there's enough that you want to make sure that they're as tight as possible, especially with something this heavy. You don't want something like that flying off your trailer. Not only are you going to get a ticket for that, but you also could really hurt someone, and obviously we don't want to do that. The old 7.3 performed flawlessly. She really gets the job done each and every time. Like I said earlier, not that I'm not a fan of the 7.3, that we need to get a bigger truck. I know we're going over her capabilities, and I really like to have this truck a long time, so I want to take good care of her. This trailer here that you see that everything's loaded on, I made that myself many years ago. Obviously, you've seen previous pictures that we use it to haul cars, but it's a really great trailer to do things just like this. I have no idea what the story is here, but this trailer's definitely got problems. Hopefully he's taking that to get fixed. Otherwise, he's going to have a big surprise when he gets where he's going. Here's a few examples of what I'd like this truck to look like in the end. A little bit shorter and black though. I want to give a huge thank you to my wife Nicole and my family for going along with this trip, and I also want to thank you, the audience, for coming along on this trip. It means a lot to me. Please continue to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.